Welcome back to House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer, and joining me as always is NFL staff writer for Sports Illustrated, Gilbert Manzano. Gilbert, uh, you know, m- we're gonna cover some Rams mini camp notes here, but I just wanted to start off the bat. What are some of your pet peeves this time of year that you kind of hear from people that just grind your gears?
Well, one of them is Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi craps out. Best believe I'm going to be annoyed, and that's going to be a pet peeve. And I did not take advice from the listeners and viewers of House of Horns to go to Starbucks. So, I don't want to hang out in public. I want to be in the comfort of my home. So I'll figure that out. But yes, there's a lot of things. One, just being. I'm going to sound negative and a annoyed reporter, but just being out there in May and June, who cares? Let's get to real football. Let's get to training camp. Training camp. I can't deny it, Victor. Like training camp is some of the best times that I like covering a team because you get to be right on the field. 11 on 11, best on best scrimmages are even more fun to be. It's like you're at a game and you're right in the field. So obviously the Rams, we'll reveal the list here. You can see it in the banner. Those are good things. But the annoying thing is like everybody's in the best shape of their lives. Everybody's on the verge of a breakout season. Every fan base. Hey, I'm not gonna criticize Rams fan base. Every fan base, everybody thinks they
Yeah.
have a chance to win the Super Bowl. Everybody. So you say anything negative, they're gonna destroy you because everybody
Oh
thinks
yeah.
they have a chance. And then obviously the one that annoyed me, that reminded me from Compas on the beat. Whenever there's like a video from camp and say the quarterback throws a bad pass or a wide receiver drops a pass or a player has like a half-ass jog through the start of practice, who cares? Like we could easily take a video and take it out of context, like the one with Keenan Allen and Caleb Williams. Look at Caleb Williams. Oh, he threw a terrible pass. Keenan Allen's going to miss Justin Herbert. Well, you don't know if Keenan Allen ran the wrong route. He's new to the Chicago Bears. You don't know they're just playing around. You don't know if Keenan is just saying, "Oh man," like for something else. Maybe he felt like a little back pain. Who knows? We don't know. But
Yeah.
everybody wants to make a story out of something this time of year, and we're going to talk about Rams minicamp. And honestly, there was nothing really to report out of Rams camp. Obviously some players were out there. We're going to get to it, but they
Right.
had a walkthrough. And honestly, being back on Thursday, sorry, I'm losing days of
Tuesday.
the week.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, I caught up with all the Rams beat reporters, and I'm like, "How's it been out here?" They're like, "Honestly, quiet." I'm like, "Oh, that's good for you, reporter, because
Yes.
the less news, the less noise, the less work you have to do." So, hey, sometimes quiet and boring is good.
Yeah, especially when it comes to the Rams, and we'll get into it because I have some questions that I want to ask you since you were there on Tuesday, and we'll get through all that. But I think just to kick things off here after I asked you about that, I think for me, I think my pet peeve is like, look, they're in shorts. They're not doing much. All they are really doing is just trying to get some of their plays in and get ready for training camp, and so you're trying to just build memory muscle. And I'm with you on the whole, like, hey, let me take a video of this and then put it out there, and then we're gonna dissect what's going on, and everybody's gonna get that wrong. So that's my little pet peeve. I'm just like, can we just, like, especially too with injuries, it's like, look, the guys just went through they go through a grueling season. Guys are gonna take their time coming back, and we'll get into it because Kyron Williams was back at practice. But just to kick things off here, Gilbert, our question of the day here, our engagement question of the day, I should say, is which joint scrimmage intrigues you the most? Chargers, Cowboys, and Texans. When you heard the three teams, Gilbert, were you surprised that it was three teams? And what about the teams? What about yourself?
Well, the first thing I thought was kind of a joke to myself. I wanted to share the joke, and I'll share it here. I'm like, oh, three teams. Now that Aaron Donald is gone, you have more joint scrimmages because you don't have to worry about Aaron Donald flinging a helmet at people or
Yep.
having fights out there. So I see what you're doing, Sean McVay. Now that it's good and bad. The intensity level that Aaron Donald provided on any day, any practice, any setting, any snap, whatever, it was way up here. And sometimes you got to tone it down for a scrimmage. So Aaron Donald not being around, maybe it's like, hey, now you got three here. I think the Chargers are going to be two, but I did like that Sean McVay spread them apart because, that was my second thought. Like when you have two back to back, like the second one is kind of like you're asking for fights, you're asking for disaster because
Yeah.
you get on people's nerves. You're itching to hit somebody. The first one's like, cool, let's get some real work in here. Then the second one's like, okay, we're tired of you guys. So Cowboys and Texans is, I think, one time, and the Chargers is twice, but spread out because they're right next to each other. So I like that. Get the extra work in, and also we're gonna talk about it when you have the new rules with the kickoff. You want to experiment and try new things. You do it during a scrimmage, and as we know with the Rams, they don't really have players play, or at least starters or players who are valuable participate in the preseason. So the best way you could do that to get some work, the scrimmages.
Yeah, and we have Steve on already who said that you should go to a Starbucks to fix your Wi-Fi there. So, what's going on, Steve? He says, "So, am I the only one on the
I
chat?"
know it's
By the
quiet.
way, what's up, fellas? Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah, we,
quiet
we
on
are
here.
kind of late though. Maybe people
Yes,
saw that we moved the times a couple times and then we got here
yeah.
late. But hey,
And today wasn't Wi-Fi issues. It was my fault. I got home late. I had to work a little extra late today, so that was on me. But we still have you guys covered. I'm sure you guys will watch the replay if you don't catch this live. So
yeah,
that's you know
Vic, not to cut you off here, but I was actually impressed how many people watched the video from last week. So I'm like, that was a crappy show. My Wi-Fi kept coming in and out, and to see people actually watch and comment, I was like,
yeah.
oh, that's cool. Like, we got some dedicated listeners here, so I'm sure people watch the replay or jump on like Flacco there, right there in the comments,
Yeah. So you
or
have
Flacco.
Stevan said, "Oh yeah, I'm a little concerned about the Chargers practice. Have a feeling Harbaugh's going to try to prove something and get one of his players as beat." So
Hmm.
I mean, we've seen how intense he can be. I kind of agree. I'm kind of on here with Steve. I mean, but you want that, but at the same time, and we'll get it more into it. But yeah, he's got a point there, Gilbert. What do
Yeah,
you
and
think?
then if you think about it, all three, like especially with the defense being in a transition year without Aaron Donald, like all three have good quarterbacks. I know people are up and down on Dak Prescott, but in the regular season, he's very
Yeah,
prolific out there. So Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, CJ Stroud. I want to say the Texans one really intrigues me because they added new pieces like Daniel Hunter, uh, Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon. I want to see what they're about up close. Like as a national reporter, it's cool that more teams are coming in. Like I think I'll get a chance to see the Cowboys anyways because they're in Oxnard. But seeing the Texans coming in, that's gonna be pretty cool. Seeing CJ Stroud, who's from Rancho Cucamonga, so from the LA area, that's pretty cool for him.
yeah,
And going off of Steve's comment, like yeah, Harbaugh he was added to provide that intensity, provide that mean streak, that nasty attitude. No more losing games on a field goal, losing one score games. No more of this nonsense here. You're gonna be physical, but you're gonna be disciplined. So maybe that's why Sean McVay trust Jim Harbaugh. Like, hey, you know what? You're going to be intense here. We like that, but we know they're going to be a disciplined team because you can't win games if you're screwing up on the field and getting flags every now and then.
yeah. I'm with you. I mean that's a good point. And then we have Flaco here. He says, "¿Qué pasó?" from Riverside, City of Bells. What's going on, Flaco? Good to have you along. Like I said, go ahead, guys. Let us know what your thoughts are on the joint practices the Rams are going to have. All right, Gilbert. Let's get to news and notes. And as we continue with the show here, so just the first thing that came out of today was that Sean McVay told actually on Tuesday while you were there, he told reporters that that they would be holding 4 joint practices against those 3 teams: the Texans, the Cowboys, and the Chargers. What I thought was interesting for myself, Gilbert, you went into it a little bit, but what was interesting for me was the fact that you know 2 out of the 3 teams were teams that are in California, and the reason that the other 2 teams weren't part of the joint practices, which is the Raiders and the Saints, is because they're going to play those teams in the regular season. One more point I wanted to make was that the Texans were going to be that team that was going to try and play or train in Costa Mesa before the Raiders were approved. So just something to kind of think about. So they still end up making their trip to California like they were planning to. So just I wanted to ask you why are joint practices more beneficial than preseason games?
It's a control environment. Obviously you can never prevent injuries, but you have a higher chance of preventing them when you're the one dictating everything, the pace, and what play is going to come here. Everybody's kind of on the same page here. Uh, you know, like the preseason, it's mostly like there could be a debate there. Like this is the reason why the preseason went to 3 games and nobody cared about losing the fourth. Obviously, it was kind of a way to meet in the middle about the 17th game, which who cares about the preseason? But you need it for the guys who haven't proven themselves. But what do you do with the ones that need to work as a proven player, the star players, and the ones you don't want to risk getting hurt? So you have them participate in the scrimmage where, like, hey, Matthew Stafford could wear the red jersey, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, CJ Stroud. Don't touch our quarterback, and we're gonna do the same for you. If you touch our quarterback, it's gonna be problems here. But we trust you, coaches, to things like that. So uh, talk beforehand, have meetings, and in a preseason game, you don't really have that because somewhat of a game setting, maybe you don't get that in a scrimmage, a game setting like that, where you don't being a predictable prepares you for the season. But again, you want to have more control environment because injuries do occur a lot, especially this time of year. And for those fantasy football participants, you hate this time of year because the player you draft might get hurt in a meaningless practice.
Yeah, that's why I mean in our league we wait till the like couple of days before because there's always injuries that happen. And I mean there's always I know there's a lot of people that, play in other kind of leagues where you have best ball and different kind of leagues. So those are really good for that. But in terms of the joint practice, I think they're really good in terms of uh building, that teamwork, that chemistry that you want to see from your team. And I think once you get to the preseason, you've already done the work and you've seen what you want out of. I thought, and we'll get into it, why Sean McVay, doesn't do a lot during mini camp. And, we'll talk a lot about it because there's not a lot, he doesn't get a lot of criticism because it works for them. It works for the Rams. But that's part of it. I think they figured out that for them, they're going to get more work in during joint practice than they would during the preseason, and that's why none of the starters play in preseason. So I kind of feel bad for the fans who have season tickets, and I know people give those away, but you're still paying for those. So I think that's where, as a fan, it kind of sucks because and why the Rams do a good job of opening up, training camp for the fans to be able to go and see because that's when you get the most exposure for those players who you think are going to do something. And I mean, for myself, I'll say this, Gilbert, being at training camp last season was what opened my eyes to guys like Puka, why I made the prediction that they would make the playoffs because you're able to see, I was able to go, we were able to go to Raiders camp and we were able to see Cardinals camp, and you can see the differences between all three of those. And I think that's where it comes in and it benefits teams.
Yeah, and like I mentioned at the start of the show, like there's something about being on the field and being eye level and trying to catch everything. Like because obviously the overview you kind of it's pretty easy to see, but like when you're on the field, you're keeping track more. Maybe that helps you. Like I'm always doing like, okay, who's on the field? Who's what defense is that? Is that a nickel? Is that a dime backer? What's the front looking on the defense? The defense is always hard to keep track of. With the Rams offense, like you got three wide receivers, you got the tight end and the running back, and for the most part, the starting offensive line. But just seeing how they kind of counter the defense up close, you really get a lot from it. I'm not trying to say that I'm a big scheme guy here, X's and O's, but you really get a sense of it. And then, like you mentioned, you got to see all the noise about Puka Nacua, and you're on the field. You're like, you know what? That's actually it sounds right. Like seeing this guy up close, he's a talented player, and to kind of give you a little nuggets from yesterday because there wasn't much because it was a walkthrough for the Rams there, and I was hoping to see a little more. But I haven't been at eye level for a Rams practice, I think, since training camp last year. Obviously, I went to a couple games, but that was way in the press box. But when I
Right.
was right there next to the players, I was like, man, like I can see why Kobe Turner had a good rookie year. This guy is massive. Like he's not like super tall, but he's bulky, man. He's like, I think it was Eric Williams that called him like a fire hydrant out there. Like he's just you can't move the guy. And he's like,
Yeah.
it's funny because he's wearing glasses for a walkthrough. And I'm like, he reminds me of Von Miller, but obviously maybe not as like lengthy, but he's just so bulky and he kind of has an Aaron Donald body. And then when I left the practice, I saw Cooper Cup and Puka Nacua hanging out, and Puka Nacua is like pretty massive. Like he kind of made Cooper Cup look small. So
Yeah.
you see why they wanted Puka because when you need guys who are versatile wide receivers, they better have big frames, they better be tall, and also move as quick as Puka does. So seeing those guys up close, I'm like, yeah, I know why they had a good rookie year.
Yeah, and for me, it was seeing Byron Young. I thought he was going to get swallowed up because he looked kind of thin out there,
Yeah.
Gilbert. But then I realized, look, the way they won the way they want these players, especially on the edge, they want thinner, twitchy guys that can move around. So it made perfect sense. My biggest concern was in the run game, and he held up for most of the season. There was some times where they were running to his side and he got exposed. But other than that, he was really impressive in terms of his skills and holding up for most of the season. So like we talked about. And then Delver says, "Ho hum on scrimmages. Finally, an opportunity to see a hint of the defensive schemes. With the last two drafts, we are loaded."
Yeah, especially those secondaries that we have questions about, like we mentioned, facing those quarterbacks and those offenses could definitely help out Chris Shula and get some work in.
Yeah, so Gilbert, you say you were there on Tuesday yesterday. So the Rams held their last ever practice at Cal Lutheran University on Tuesday. Cal Lutheran was supposed to be a temporary site for the Rams after moving from St. Louis in 2016. So after 7 years in Thousand Oaks, they will be relocating to Woodland Hills. So you were there for the last day there. Just in terms, you were on the beat for a year. Do you have any fond memories, like a good story or something from your that 1 year having to go to Thousand Oaks and visiting the practice fields at Cal Lutheran?
Yeah, I don't have too many because I only have that 1 year. But talking to Gary Klein, like he said, he's been there all 8 years and he has a bunch of memories. Like it was kind of cool because he was sharing these memories. I'm like, okay, cool. Like I was part of that for a year, and for me it was 2022. And I'll say like if you're kind of a young reporter and you're having to deal with Jalen Ramsey, who kind of could be a little fiery, a little competitive, and if you don't come prepared, like that could really discourage a reporter. And I remember for me, it took me a while to kind of break through with Jalen Ramsey, but he kept seeing that, okay, I'm prepared. I'm not really phased about his attitude. Like, I don't care if you're mad at me, bro. Like, I know you're losing, but I have a job to do here. And I think he respected that. I asked fair questions. And, it kind of became at the end where like it paid off because when I wanted to do a story about Derwin James and Jalen Ramsey playing each other, fortunately it didn't work out because I think Jalen got hurt,
Right.
or it might have been Derwin. No, Derwin got suspended. I think I forget. But he doesn't do a lot of one-on-one interviews, and because I was there in the press conferences, he said yeah, and he approved it, and we just kind of hung out in the back of I guess where the locker room is at. They have like little tables there, and we just spoke for like 40 minutes, and he was a very detailed guy. He kind of shared a different side that I didn't really get at the podium, so that was pretty cool. Hearing how him and Derwin James grew up together and became close friends, and seeing Baker Mayfield walk around during the interview and Baker Mayfield and Jalen Ramsey talking to each other, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Jalen Ramsey and Baker Mayfield right here. And that was a cool thing about covering the Rams. There was a lot of star power that just came through. Obviously, Stafford, Cooper Cup, guys like that. And there's obviously Aaron Donald seeing his locker room right there. When you walk in, it's like, all right, you can't really talk to Aaron Donald because he's in his own world there. But
Right.
you got to see his other side. You don't really get to see at the podium of him, chatting with his teammates, and people think he's a scary, tough guy, but he's having fun, joking around.
Did we lose Gilbert again? We got 18 minutes in, and it looks like Gilbert's Wi-Fi pooped out. But I'll keep the show going here in terms of what he's talking about. And I'll say this: if you haven't checked out Gary Klein's story at the LA Times, where he says Rams waved goodbye to their Cal Lutheran era. He goes into his 8 years while he was there, and I thought he does a really good job. He said it was supposed to be a temporary home for the Rams, a few years at most, a stopover. Nearly a decade, two Super Bowl appearances, and one championship later, the Rams today will be on the field for the final time at Cal Lutheran, which Gilbert was there, and we'll get more information from Gilbert once he comes back. But if you haven't, go ahead and check out his story at the LA Times, and he did a really good job. I really got into that story because I forgot there was a lot of things that I forgot about. The first thing was, why did it take so long for them to move and find a place in Woodland Hills? And Stan Kroenke having all that money, I think for him it took him a while to find a location to be able to, put the the Rams and Gilbert. Are you? Can you hear me? I was
Yeah.
just telling. I was just talking about Gary Klein's story, which you talked about a little bit as you were talking about your memories of having to go to Cal Lutheran. Well, Gary Klein did a great job writing a story for the LA Times, and I was just telling people that they should go and check it out because as you talked about, he was there for 8 years and he outlined all the things and why it took so long for them to finally find a place in Woodland Hills. But you were saying before you had your Wi-Fi problems again.
Yeah, no, it's just I've heard stories from Gary and the beat people there how they had to change all the trailers, and I'm sure in the story he mentions I gotta read it soon. I'm sure it's filled with nuggets because when I talked to him in
Yeah,
person, I was like, yeah, you have a lot to write about, man. The Kobe year for them, him, Jordan, and Greg Beecham and Stu, they're all saying like this little section right here, that's where they had the little tent here during COVID. And I'm like, I can only imagine how bad. Like the Chargers one wasn't so bad when I was there, but yeah, the tents, the bad Wi-Fi is also not just with me. There were some bad Wi-Fi errors in that trailer. Like there was a couple of times people kept asking me, "Hey, you want to jump on the show, do a radio interview?" I'm like, I can't during that time. The Wi-Fi sucks here. Like I can't. I I, I don't want to ruin your show, man. Like I'm doing it here for House of Horns. But
right.
yeah, definitely. I got to check out Gary's story, and you haven't read it, but do the same because just talking to Gary in person, man, those stories for 8 years. Like it
Yeah,
was supposed to be for a year or two, and to do it for a
yeah.
whole
2 years.
8 years.
He talked about it. Yeah,
Yeah, and then I think he was telling me that the whole Loyola thing, it wasn't because Woodland Hills wasn't ready. It was more like they wanted more some a place where it's closer, where they could stay at the dorms and then quickly get to the field. I guess the Irvine Hotel to Irvine, the UC
yeah.
Irvine was too far, and it killed their practice time. So I don't think they have plans of having a training camp at Woodland Hills, and maybe LMU could be a thing for the next couple of years. We'll see how it goes for the first year.
Yeah, and another interesting thing too was that some of like the coaches and the players they're all going to Woodland Hills, but the business side is staying in Agora Hills, which I've actually visited. I know exactly where it's at. It's a pretty cool building as well, but I honestly can't wait. I mean, it's right in the middle of Woodland Hills, the practice facility. You'll be able to see it not right off the freeway on the 101, but it's like a mile in or so. But I know exactly where it's going to be, and they have plenty of room there. So I'm sure it'll be a welcome sight. And McVay says he's finally going to have a window. That was the one thing he asked for, was at least having a window in his bungalow there. So that'll be something cool to see. Um, as so one of the other things, Gilbert, from Tuesday, since you were there, was there, we talked about it. It was a 1 day mini camp for the Rams, and it was a walkthrough. And it's another thing that the Rams do differently than the rest of the league. You had talked about it on regular compas, how they do things differently. I mean, when you were there, did McVay do this as well, or is this something new?
Uh, like do
Like
do what is
having just 1 day where the 1 day a mini camp and it's just a walkthrough, because around the league everybody's having a mini camp and they're going like
yeah.
full practice, Gilbert, and
Yeah,
they're doing this.
this is
Yeah,
pretty standard with the Rams. I feel like I can't remember my year, but I don't think it was anything pretty serious. Uh, Obviously, I was in there last year, but when it comes to the Rams and kind of having kind of half days and quick work, I'm not surprised about it. That's kind of their thing there. So, honestly, I was there on Tuesday because I'm working on some stories for the NFL season preview for SI. So I wanted to knock out some interviews. I wasn't really there for the practice, and I didn't even know that was the last Thousand Oaks practice. I forgot until I got there. So I kind of came on a good day for I guess for history and saying goodbye and seeing people and hearing about the stories. But in terms of on the field work, it was quick. Maybe 40 minutes walk through. They
yeah,
weren't even I think they were in shirts out there, shirts and shorts. Nothing kind of like resembling like a training camp or anything like that, or even an OTA. So no helmets. Yeah, that's for sure. So it was just a walkthrough there. So, but it was cool to see guys that maybe had been dealing with injury. Kyron Williams was out there.
yeah,
Tre'Davious White was out there. So that's a good sight. Obviously, you don't want to put too much stock and focus into injuries this time of year, especially even during training camp, unless like you're missing a lot of time and you're not getting that work in. But just for the group to be together on the field and kind of just seeing it and talking about it, I'm sure it's good work. But McVay has a system, and it works for everybody differently. Like obviously the Chargers had to have 3 days. Like they had like a double header on Tuesday. I think they had to go
Yep.
to was it
They
the
were in El
Marines.
Segundo, and then they went to Pendleton.
Yeah, to pay a visit to the Marines out there. Shout out to them. Thank you for your service. But Jim Harbaugh is new. He's back in the NFL after 9 years. He's new to the Chargers, so obviously you want to have more time with your team, right? I'm sorry, 3 days.
Don't you
Uh,
get extra practice? Sorry to interrupt, but don't you get as a new coach, they give you extra practices?
yeah, you get like a week or two or earlier than most teams, but when it comes to the April, those I don't know what the hell they call the April workouts because the main ones are OTAs. But I guess the first phase of the off season, they get a couple weeks early there than the the experienced coaches. But that's another thing from McVay too. Like this is year 7 for him now, so he doesn't need all the time there, and he has his own way of doing things. And when you got a Super Bowl, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah, and one of the things he's talked about, I saw the interview he did with JB Long today, and he talked about, the fact that the guys put in the work, and he just rewards them. He's like, I'm not gonna put them through a nut. Once we get what we need out of them in terms of OTAs, I pretty much just have a walkthrough, and then I just give them a month and a half vacation so they can, relax, and then they're prepared and they know what we expect from them when they come back for training camp. It looks like we lost Gilbert once more, but it's okay. We'll roll on here once again, um, and we'll ask Gilbert about. We'll get to your question, Gilbert. And Stevon said, Starbucks. So yeah, we'll get Gilbert's Wi-Fi. It hasn't been as bad this week as it was last week, so we have improved there. But he talked about something that I kind of wanted to talk about here, so we'll get to it, and then we'll ask him a couple more questions, and then we'll close up shop here for this episode. But the Rams will be holding training camp, as he talked about, at LMU starting July 23rd. So as we talked about, it'll give him about a month, and it'll give the Rams about a month and a week or so, before they're good to go for training camp, Gilbert. So the Rams will report to training camp at LMU. And then one last thing I was going to get to here, Gilbert, for Rams news and notes, which is something you talked about, that you were there to talk to people, and you got some, you saw Kyron Williams. So Kyron Williams was back at practice and is expected to be a full participant during training camp. And then the other one is Tre'Davious White, also participated in Tuesday's walkthrough. And then according to McVay, his hope is that White is ready for the season opener, but the Rams are not putting a definite timeline for when he'll be a full go. So it looks like they're going to take it slowly with Tre'Davious White. And then Kyron Williams, he's making progress. It looks like he's going to be a full go during training camp.
Yeah, we don't need to waste too much time on Kyron Williams. We know how important he is to the offense, how pivotal he is, and obviously he has to maybe split some carries with Blake Corum for his past history with injuries there. But to be out there in June for a walkthrough before training camp, as long as he stays healthy and he's on track for the next 6 weeks, he should be okay. Tre'Davious White, he's a tough one to kind of gauge because like how much do you need him? How much do you want to rely on him? It does open the door for younger guys to do something with those opportunities. Obviously, Kobe Durant didn't really step up last year, but maybe for him, he could make the most of it. So, obviously, you want to have a player of that caliber, but maybe you shouldn't put too much faith in him being ready. But hey, it sounds like he's on track, progress. So, for Rams fans, maybe don't kind of push him to be out there too quickly because you want that guy to stay healthy. Because when he's healthy, he does well. But obviously, he has a lot of injuries in his career.
Yeah, and especially since you're a contending team, I would take it easy. And then, kind of like what you want to do with Aaron Donald, if he comes back, you want him for the second half run and the playoffs. So it makes sense for you to take your time with him. And then I'll get to Delber's question here for you, and it has to do with this. So the last thing I have in terms of news and notes is, according to Jordan Rodriguez of The Athletic, Rams are blocking now an increased number of periods during practice for special teams installations and drills. So number one, it's because of the new kickoff rule, and then number two is because they were terrible in special teams last year. So they're going to spend extra time on that, Gilbert. And then to Delber's question, he wanted to know, did you see Cardi work out while you were there?
No, it was pretty simple walkthrough. They were on opposite fields for a bit. I think that the second team and the first team, and then they got together on the same field, but there was no work, at least for the media to see. Cardi, but yeah, yeah, we'll see. I think in training camp, like I mentioned, when we get to training camp, I'm gonna have my notepad out for the Cardi field goal attempt to see how he does there. And yeah, I did catch the interview with Chase Blackburn the other week there, and they have high hopes for Cardi, and we'll see how he does, and maybe they bring competition for him. But he wasn't out there doing much work. But it's a good sign that they're actually focusing a lot on the new kickoff rule. It makes sense why they added like a guy like Boston Scott who has experience with that. And like you mentioned, Victor, maybe the running backs could be handling the kick returns. Maybe don't use Kyron Williams because you don't want him to get hurt out there. You want him to be a
Yeah.
running back, not a kick returner. But I'm just curious to see who gets to work for that because you get two guys right back there. So maybe one
Yep.
could be Boston Scott to be a veteran, and maybe get like a speed demon out there to be the other guy. So that in the kicker situation should be very fascinating to see how it plays out.
Something else that someone brought up that I heard on a podcast this week, Gilbert, is that you're gonna need, how in baseball you have a guy, kind of backing up one of the bases just in case the ball gets away from that, the
Yeah.
person getting the ball. It's the same thing because that ball's gonna be live, so you need somebody back there backing up that, the person who's catching the ball as well. So that's gonna be very important too. So if you're gonna have two guys back there, make sure one of them is backing up because if that ball gets away from the first guy, that ball is live, and if the kicking team recovers it, it's their ball, and it might be lead to a touchdown.
It,
But let me go ahead.
I
Sorry.
was gonna say it kind of reminds me of I think was it the Super Bowl where one of the 49ers players got a lot of heat because he fumbled, but he was actually making a savvy play because it touched somebody's leg and he had to go
Hmm.
chase it. Things like that could really matter. Like obviously you want somebody with reliable hands and fast, but good awareness, good instincts to cover a lot of ground. That could be a big factor, Victor. So that's a good
Yeah.
point by you.
Yeah, so that'll be something to kind of keep an eye. Let me go through these comments real quick, and then we'll finish up with our update on the Puka Nakua jersey. We finally have a winner, guys. Um, Willie Bowen says, "Love the LA Rams," and then he says, "Cup, Nakua, and Davis Allen, and the Rams reception Renegades."
Mm.
And then Steve On has a question for you that doesn't have to do with Starbucks. He says, "Gilbert, any rumors out there about the Rams trading for anyone? Seems like the Rams are going to continue being super disciplined through this year. Personally, would love us to get an elite left tackle."
Yeah, that'd be nice to get left tackle. Unfortunately, those don't grow on trees like they always say. But Sean McVay actually did talk about this at his news conference, and it didn't really seem like they were open to like getting free agents. Like he seemed like this is our group. We're cool with this group. We like this group here. But he said obviously the Rams being the Rams, they're going to explore every option if something comes about. But he didn't really seem pressed or rushed to get somebody out there, via trade or a free agent signing. Like hey, when you have kind of issues with the secondary, Stephon Gilmore's out there, Justin Simmons is out there. Obviously, you could go for players like that, but he seemed pretty content. But you're not going to tell people, you're not going to tell the media what your plans are behind the scenes. So that's the best information I could give you, Steve. There, but just going off of his expression, I don't think he seemed too pressed about getting outside talent right now.
Yeah, and one of the guys to kind of keep an eye on in terms not of players, but that's kind of become really intriguing within the Rams front office is Tony Pastors. I hope I'm saying his name right,
Yeah,
the VP, because if you saw the behind the grind video, he's really important in terms of he was the one that they asked about, you know, giving up that second round pick, and he's the one that approved it. So yeah, like Les Need and Sean McVay have a lot of pull, but if you're gonna, if they're gonna, come up with some extra money as we talked about, now that the trading deadline has been moved back a little bit, he's a guy who you kind of have to, keep an eye on in terms of he's gonna be the guy that's gonna make the move. He's gonna clear some money. And the way you do it is we're still, the biggest noise that's coming out of Rams camp is still the whole Matthew Stafford contract situation and how are they going to free up money? What do they need to free up money for him? that'll be something to kind of keep an eye on. And once that contract gets done, how much money is available to go out and get somebody, Gilbert?
Yeah, the whole Stafford thing. I don't think the Rams are too concerned about it. But yeah, if you get a new deal, sometimes you move money around and it frees you up for other players. And like those names that I mentioned, like the Simmons and Gilmer of the free agent pool, he might want good money, and the Rams just can't afford it and say no, we're good. Things like that. So and maybe it's a plus side of moving around money with Stafford and giving him his guaranteed money and taking care of him on that front there. But yeah, Tony there is definitely has a big say. He's a salary cap guru. He knows the numbers. He knows analytics. He knows how to fit the formula for draft picks and trades. So you know, I think something might occur. Maybe like honestly, like if an injury occurs, they might make a splash move. But I think they're gonna wait it out to
Yeah.
uh the regular season, and if something's not working or not clicking, we all know the Rams are not going to hesitate to make a move.
Yeah, and I know we keep, talking about Alaric Jackson and how he's a weak point, but I think the fact that you upgraded, and you filled, your position, your middle of your offensive line with your left guard, your right guard, and your center. And I think, I the biggest question mark isn't Alaric Jackson, is actually Rob Havenstein staying healthy. If you can keep Rob Havenstein healthy for the whole season, then you should be fine. You should be able to run the ball right up the middle and protect Matthew Stafford. Um, but we'll see. I mean, we're only in June, and now the Rams are off for a month and a half, pretty much, and they come. Next thing you know, training camp gets here, and that's when the real stuff starts beginning. That's when the season really gets started. It feels like. But let me just finish up
Well,
this.
Victor, to go for the left tackle thing, if they're willing to wait for players like DJ Humphries, the former left tackle of the Cardinals, who's rehabbing a torn ACL that kind of occurred late in the season, maybe you bring him in the building and rehab, and then you get him by October or something, just in case. Like, he's a really good player, and I remember reading the Cardinals, I guess, transcript saying, you know what, it was a difficult decision, but they have Paris Johnson Jr. performance.
I think I kept Gilbert a little too long. Uh, I think you're almost back, Gilbert. But let me get to these comments. I said we have Michael Armenta saying, "What's up, compas?" Um, It says, Stevan says, good point. That's why you're getting my jersey. As soon as Gilbert is back, we'll get to he's gonna tell us who the jersey winner is. So stay tuned to find out, Steve. You might be the winner here. And Delbert says, ride or die with Group Puros Cuernos. And then Dano says, chat with rookie you looking forward to perform. So which rookie are we looking forward to performing? Honestly, the from what I heard today with the interview that Sean McVay did, he talked about those first two guys in Jared Verse and Brennan, the defensive tackle. He talked about Brendan Fisk. I think those two guys are going to be very important for this team. I think especially when it comes to replacing Aaron Donald, you're not going to be able to. But as Gilbert talked about earlier with Byron Young, and then you have Kobe Turner as well. I think adding those two guys to the defensive line is gonna be a big help. How well they develop in the beginning of the season, training camp and preseason, and then into the beginning of the season. Gilbert, it looks like you're still there. Are you able to hear
Here,
me? Okay.
I
Okay.
got
Cool.
you, but I never
All
know
right then.
if I'm here.
Yeah, you're there. You're there.
Okay.
You're there. Yeah. So I was just talking to Dano was asking what rookie are you looking forward to perform? And I just mentioned those two guys, the first two guys in Jared Verse and Brendan Fisk or Braden Fisk. I keep calling him Brendan.
Hey, speaking, I guess player sizes and how they look from field level. Jared Verse looks like a beast out there. He's
Yeah.
a monster. So I can't wait to see how he performs. And obviously, Braden Fisk is a good one there. But Blake Corum too, like Blake Corum, highly decorated player at Michigan, won a national title. I want to see what he does at the pro level.
Yeah, me too. I mean, he was doing the media round this week, and he looks like a really impressive. I knew that. I mean, from his time at Michigan, just some of the things he does off the field. I think for me, he's gonna be a big guy in the community. People, Ram fans are gonna fall in love with, as we seen with Puka Nakua and Cooper Cup and what they do in the community. The same thing is going to be said for Blake Corum. All right, Gilbert. I don't want your Wi-Fi to poop out. So one last time, what's the update on? We have a winner, right?
Am I still on? Because I see the low
Yes.
bar.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're here.
All right. It might crap out right now, but yeah. So I had to do it again because the previous winner never showed up, and I gave him a month. So sorry if you're watching and you're disappointed. I won't even give out the name anymore. But this winner, actually, I see the name pretty frequently. I don't see them
Yes,
right now, so
he's a day
hopefully.
one guy. He was a day one person, and he watches, but he watches a replays. He doesn't watch
Okay.
live.
All right.
Yes.
Then they're gonna be very excited, and I'll just say this: it was cool to see over 150 entries here, and obviously some people had a bunch of votes stacked up. I want to say like 75 people participated in the Puka Nakua jersey giveaway. But to give our winner a jersey and announce it, Onyx 2626. Shout out to you for winning the Puka Nakua jersey. Send me an email at Gilberto at compasonthebeat.com. He has the banner handy, Victor. Please share that.
Yeah.
Gilbert with an O at compasonthebeat.com. Send me an email. We'll find a way to verify it's you, Onyx 2626. And because you're one of the loyal watchers and listeners, I'll try to reach out to you as well, Onyx. I want to get a winner and give out this jersey. But hey, kind of fitting that this is going to be the last show of the 2024 off season. We finally gave away the Puka Nakua jersey. We are well over 1,000 subscribers, so that's pretty cool. In a way, no, no knock on the previous winner there, but it's cool to see Onyx win it because we do recognize the name. We do know he's a loyal listener here of the program. So Onyx 2626. Hopefully, it's a good surprise for you, and we'll try to figure out how to get in touch here to give you this jersey. But send me an email, Gilberto at compasonthebeat.com. Find a way to kind of prove that it's you. I'm sure that we'll figure out a way. But yeah, if not, I'll try to reach out to you. I'll give you a couple of days because you do deserve me pursuing you to get this jersey.
Yeah, and we should wait because like I said, I remember him from our first season, and he was always
Mm-hmm.
before we started doing the lives, he would comment, and so congrats to Onyx because I do remember that name, and I do remember him commenting. Here's a couple more comments that says from Steve on. Damn, I really wanted to get you that jersey, Victor. What size are you, by the way? I'm a 2X. You're kind of a giant, huh? Yes, I'm a big guy. I'm about 6'2", about 270. So yeah, I'm a big guy. So if you
Yeah, I've
ever
been around Victor. He is kind of a giant, so I can
yes,
confirm that.
yeah. And then Michael Armenta says, it
I'm
says, dang
sorry,
it,
Michael.
I know, but at least it went to one of our, we'll see. Maybe we don't hear from Onyx and 2626, and Michael, you might have another opportunity. And same with you, Steve. We'll see what happens, but I'm leaving it on here just in case he does stay till the end and he watches this. But at least you're gonna reach out to him, and hopefully we get a response from him and we can finally give away. But Gilbert, let the people know what we got. I mean, now it's a month and a half. Now, kind of we just wait for training camp at this point. So I guess we'll update people as to when we'll do another episode.
Yeah, I'm guessing like in a month because I go on vacation next week, and then you go on vacation too, and then
Yes.
I have another one, and we're gonna be covering some. And stick around the Compass on the Beat because we're gonna be covering a couple of Vegas events. We're gonna be at the Tank Davis versus Frank Martin fight. Fernando and myself, so a lot of boxing content on the YouTube channel for Compass on the Beat. And then if Conor McGregor decides to show up later in the month of June, we're gonna be at UFC 303. So we're gonna have a lot of content in terms of combat sports. Football is gonna be slow because a lot of teams, or all the teams, have a dead period for about 6 weeks. So you might not hear from us from a month here. Unfortunately, we love talking to everybody here, but we got vacations coming up, and then maybe we'll jump on. I think Victor, you had the date for the report day, the July
Yeah.
23rd for the
Yes.
Rams.
Yeah.
So
July
maybe
23rd.
we'll have a show the week before that to kind of have a preview. But
Yep.
yeah, we won't try to stay away for longer than a month. But I think it's a well deserved break for both of us here, and for the listeners too. Go have fun. Go to the beach and do something
Yes.
exciting.
Yeah, and then just I'll leave some I'll do some weekly posts in terms of anything, and just ask us anything. We can do a mailbag for training camp. Just what you're looking forward to. checking out during, when are you going? Are you going to go check out the new site at LMU? And if so, what do you want to check out? So weekly, I'll post some items, and then you let us know, and we'll use those questions and as a mailbag, and we'll do that show the week before training camp, and we'll
Yeah,
try to get
and
some.
send us
I'll try.
emails too. We'll definitely
Yes,
respond to emails and have
exactly.
conversations, Victor. And I'll do a little more promo here. The newsletter, I'm gonna start it this week, this Wednesday. I already wrote stuff on it. I'm waiting for the show to finish. I could put the link to the newsletter, but I'll have a newsletter this week and next week, and then probably take a little time off. But yeah, just reach out to emails, any type of way you could contact us, just to chat via email, YouTube comments, whatever, the community page. We don't want to totally disappear, but
Yeah.
Victor does a good job of trying to get people engaged and talking.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll make sure to post weekly stuff, and just let us know what do you want to ask us for training camp, because I mean, that's when the real season begins for us, and Gilbert's going to be all over California, checking out all 5 of the training camps here in California. So if you have any questions, I mean,
Yeah.
and I really want to get Gilbert, just to let the people know, the fans who are checking us out, the subscribers, is I really want to get people who cover the Cardinals, the 49ers, and the Seahawks, so that way we can kind of preview, those teams, the opponents for the Rams.
Yeah, no, definitely. So maybe sometime in middle of June. I'm sorry, July. That's the goal, to kind of kill some time before the actual training camp. Is maybe just see what's going on around the NFC West and talk to some people. I do want to get some more beat reporters on for the Rams, but I didn't trust my Wi-Fi. We're supposed to get a best week. Hopefully, when I get back from vacation, I have my all figured out and borrow some crap out. But for some
And yes, it is crapping out once again. So here, let me go through some comments here to close out. Onward to verse jersey giveaway. So he's saying that Deborah says that we should give out a verse jersey next. So maybe we will. Maybe if we get to 2K, we'll do that. Michael says, enjoy your vacation, compas. Thank you, Michael. We will. We have some plans going on, but and then yes, RIP to Jerry West from Delbert Sagado, Mr. Laker, for me, because he was there forever, and he was instrumental in all the success that the franchise has done there. And then Stevan says, "Are you guys going to LMU?" My plan is, I if I can get credential from Gilbert, I will go, but we'll see. Gilbert will be there for sure, though.
Yeah, I definitely want to do a story about especially all the new teams and new facilities, new sites, and just kind of see what's different, what's new, what's changed. So I might be there early for the Rams LMU practice. Same thing with the Raiders, same thing with the Saints, same thing with the Chargers, because there are places I want to about that.
Yeah, so so there you go. So Gilbert's gonna be there. He's gonna be at LMU. He's gonna be checking out the Raiders in Costa Mesa, the Cowboys in Oxnard. You have the Chargers in El Segundo, and then same thing with the scrimmages. So um, as Stevan says, if they allow the public, they will. They have open practices. The only ones that are not allowed to have open practices here in California are going to be the Raiders and the Saints, just because the Rams and the Chargers have territorial rights. But Gilbert, go ahead and close us out with that last comment from Steve. Oh, it looks like he can't hear me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna close things out, Gilbert. So with that said, ya nos vamos, pues vámonos.